Hello and welcome to this video again, where now I'm going to try the IGCSE paper 1 0455 MCQ, which was done in February-March 2026. Again, I'm going to try this before the mark scheme comes out. Right, without wasting any more time, let's go directly to question 1, which is going to ask us, what would cause a reduction in the factors of production in a country? What would cause a reduction in the factors of production in a country? A decrease in the population, yeah, this could probably do it. Discovery of new resources, this will increase factors of production. Advancing technology will increase. An increase in the unemployment rate. So this one will not cause any reduction, but it's going to cause inefficiency of the use of resources. So it's not really going to cause a reduction. So the correct answer here would be a decrease in population, maybe because of people moving to another country, or mass death. Okay, let's try question 2. A government reduces social security spending by 10 billion in order to increase defense spending by 10 billion. What is an example of this? So this is a trade-off where they took this 10 billion and moved it to another government thing. So it's not expansionary monetary fiscal policy. It's not market forces. It's not price stability. It's probably reallocation of resources. So I'm going to go with D for question 2. Let's go to question 3. The diagram shows an economy located at point X, this point here, on an initial production possibility curve. The government would like to move to point Y, so they'd like to move to point Y there on the PPC2. All right, so what's the question? Which policy is likely to achieve this outcome? So this is a shift of the PPC, so it's going to be something to do with increasing the quality or the quantity of factors of production. So let's just look for something that can increase the quality or quantity of factors of production. Cut indirect taxes on consumer goods. That's not going to increase anything to do with factors of production. Encourage immigration of skilled labor. Okay, this one could be true. Train the unemployed to help them get jobs. So if there are some unemployed people, and if there are some unemployed people, it means the economy is probably somewhere inside here. It's inefficient, so I don't think that can work. Transfer resources from production of capital goods to production of consumer goods. This is going to cause a movement on the PPC, a movement, but not a shift. So if it wants to do a shift, then I think it's going to have to do that. Encourage immigration of skilled labor into the country. Okay, let's go to question 4. What is likely to reduce the price of an airline's flights? Reduce the price of an airline's flights. Okay, increase competition from new airline companies. This could do. Let's put a dot there for now. Increase demand for flights. An increase in demand will shift demand curve to the right. This is going to increase prices. Increased fuel prices is going to increase prices by shifting supply curve to the left. Increased wages for airline staff. Again, this is an increase in a factor of production, which is going to shift supply curve to the left and increase the prices. So the correct answer here would be A. All right, let's try question 5. Question 5. The diagram shows the market for a good. Okay, so it's a market. Let's see the question. If the current disequilibrium price is at P1, I'm going to try to make this smaller so that we can see the question. If the current disequilibrium price is at P1, what will need to happen to adjust the market equilibrium at point Z? So there's a disequilibrium at that price, and we need to go back there So what needs to happen here is that prices should need to go down. Okay, let's look at the answers. A contraction in supply from Y to Z. Contraction in supply from Y to Z, that's 2. And then extension in demand from X to Z. Okay, that one can work. Demand curve will need to shift to the right from X to Y. Now, this is not going to take that thing to Z. The government will need to set a minimum price at P1. No. The supply curve will need to shift from Y to X. No. I think the correct answer is A. Because for demand it's going to be an extension, and for supply it's going to be a contraction. All right, let's try question 6. Okay, which combination of changes in price and quantity demanded would result in a price elasticity of demand of minus 0.1? All right, so this one is very simple. If you're looking for PED, it's going to be percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. And that will be, so we have percentage change in quantity demanded. So if you start with the first one, it's going to end up being positive. So we forget about that, and that's going to be positive, and that's going to be positive. So let's try to see if this one can work. So minus 1 over 10. This is going to be minus 0.1. So this should be the correct answer. For question 6 will be B. I just did like mental math where this negative and this negative are going to cancel out to make this solution here, whatever it is, positive, while what we have here is negative. And here it's going to be positive also, and here it's going to be positive. So I just said, let me divide these and see whether I'm going to get that. And turns out, so that was not so, that was quite easy to see. All right, let's go to question 7. What is a key feature of the market economic system? Okay, so this one has no government intervention for sure. Both the private and public sector, so that one is wrong. As soon as they say public sector, it's wrong. Competition between firms results in lower prices and more choices for consumers. This one could be true. The government always intervenes to reduce market failure. The government does not intervene, it doesn't exist. And transfer ownership of private sector assets to public sector, no. So the correct answer here will be B, 7B. Okay, let's go to 8. Question 8. Some private sector firms in a free market allocate resources inefficiently by causing external costs. Which economic concept does this describe? Opportunity cost? Possibly. This economies of scale? If it's an external cost, it's probably market failure. The concept of external cost comes out clearly in market failure. It's not specialization of cost. Let's try question 9. I'm going to try to make it smaller so that you can see the question and the answer and the graph. The government gives farmers a subsidy of 5 per kilo to supply food on the open market, where X is the original equilibrium position. So it's there. The effect is illustrated the effect is illustrated in the diagram shown. Okay, so what's the question? What will the new equilibrium price and quantity supplied as a result of the subsidy? Okay, I'm going to make this smaller so that we can see the graph and also the answers there. So this is the equilibrium. The government gives them 5. So this is where the subsidy goes. This straight line here, that's the size of the subsidy, the 5 that they were given. It's usually the vertical distance between the two supply curves. And then, of course, consumers are going to be buying from here, this point here. So that price there looks like 11 and quantity of 25. So that should be B. Okay. That should be B. If you're wondering why it's not here, it's because the subsidy should definitely increase first the supply. So at this point, supply hasn't increased. And also that the subsidy given by the government, part of it covers consumer surplus and part of it covers producer surplus. So it's a concept that maybe if you don't remember, you may want to go back and check. All right, let's go to question 10. Why is a central bank important to producers? For the collection of corporation tax. The central bank does not collect taxes to maintain price stability. Yeah, this is a possibility by controlling inflation and things like that. For the provision of loan facilities. It doesn't provide loans to those guys, to producers, and it doesn't give them savings accounts. I think the only thing that can be done here is it's going to be maintain price stability. This is a role of a central bank, maintaining price stability. Okay, let's move on to 11. Okay, what might have caused savings to rise faster than incomes in a particular year? So savings are rising faster than incomes in a particular year. Income increased at a greater rate than inflation. That's a possibility. Increased consumer confidence, leading to increased consumer spending. If they spend more, they're not going to be able to save. Interest rates fell, leading to a fall in return on savings. If interest rates fall and returns on savings fall, then people are not going to want to save. The rate of income tax increased. If the rate of income tax increased, then people are likely to have less to spend and therefore even less to save. So this one cannot work. 11 is A is the correct, closest that I can choose there. Let's move on to 12. On average, doctors earn more than bus drivers. Okay. Which change would be likely to reduce the earnings gap between doctors and bus drivers? Okay. A decrease in the profits earned by bus companies. Is there a decrease in profits earned by bus companies? Then they're going to pay the bus drivers less. A decrease in the qualification needed to be a doctor. Yeah, so that more people can become doctors and there's more supply of this being a doctor, the salary is going to go down. An increase in demand for this one is going to increase salaries for doctors. An increase in the number of people passing the driving test. This is going to decrease the salary of drivers. So this is the one that is going to decrease at least the salary of doctors, making the drivers maybe catch up. Right, let's move on to 13. A car manufacturer has increased the amount of specialization in its factory. Which diagram shows the impact on the market for the manufacturer's cars? So if specialization has increased, we are expecting the supply curve to shift to the right. So here's the demand curve shifting, so not there, so it should be one of these. And this is the correct one, D, because it's the one showing supply increasing. Specialization increases productivity, and therefore we should have more goods produced and probably at a lower price. Let's move on to 14. A group of workers in a firm joins a trade union. What would the union be expected to do? Well, this one, a union is going to fight or negotiate for their rights, arrange for labor-saving technology to be included. No. If they do that, they have nobody to represent, discuss the safety issues in the workplace with the employer. This is most likely to happen. Ensure job security by promoting the firm's products through advertising. They don't do that. They don't promote the firm's products. Negotiate new contracts with major buyers of the firm products. They don't do that as well. So 14 would be that. Let's go to 15. The table below shows the output, total fixed cost, and total variable cost of a firm. Output, fixed cost, variable cost. What can be concluded from the data? One of the things you notice here is the total fixed cost is not changing. Total variable cost is increasing by 1,000. Total variable cost is increasing by 1,000. for every 5 units produced. And that could mean something, that here the variable cost is 1,000 also, from 1,000 to 2,000, and here okay, let's look at the average fixed cost. This one does not remain constant, because as the product increases, when you divide 1,000 by 5, you're going to get a different number, 1,000 by 10 a different number, and then so it's not fixed. Average total cost rises? No, it actually goes down. Average total cost rises. Let's try that. So we start with 2,000 as the total cost divided by 5. That would be, I'm just going to get a calculator here to make that easy and to avoid any mistake. It's 400. And then let's try 4,000 by 20. This one, last one here. 5,000, sorry, 5,000 divide 20. That's 250. So as you can see, the average total cost is decreasing, so this one is not true. Average variable cost remains constant. Average variable cost remains constant. Let's try that. 1,000 by 5 here. 1,000 by 5 should be 200. And then 2,000 by 10 should be 200. And 3,000 by 15, it's also 200, and 4,000 by 20 is 200. So this is going to be the correct answer. Total cost falls. That one is not true. So this one, no. Right. So let's move on to question 16. What allows a monopoly to charge a high price for its product and still make profit? Okay, so if it's a monopoly, substitute products may not exist. So this one and that one, that's why it's a monopoly, it's a single seller. Barriers to entry will be high. So this one, it's quite difficult for other businesses to join this business. All right. Okay, let's move on to 17. Which government actions are primarily aimed at achieving an international impact? So we're looking for government actions that are primarily aimed at achieving an international impact. So the first is setting a minimum wage. This one has no international impact. So it can be that or that, maybe. And then depreciating exchange rate, this one, yes. Deregulating industry. This one probably doesn't have an international impact, but introducing tariffs has. So for question 17, this is the one that these actions here, the currency and the tariffs, will have a lot of impact on the international, a lot of international impact. So that will be the solution there. All right, let's go to question 18. Government aims to introduce stable prices because inflation can result in a current account deficit in the balance of payments. How does inflation contribute to a current account deficit? Okay, so inflation means high prices, which means blah blah blah. Countries have to barter manufactured goods for raw materials. No. Goods manufactured for export lose their competitiveness. Probably. Number of foreign visitors increase. No. Spending on imported goods is reduced. Spending on imported goods is reduced. If there is inflation, That would be the exchange rate, but not the inflation. So this one no. So probably I am thinking B here for 18, for question 18. Let's go to 19. Which feature of a tax is not desirable? So a feature of a tax that's not desirable. Certainty regarding the payment required, that's okay. Convenience, yes. Equal payments, no. Flexibility in different economic circumstances. So this one would be C. Right, question 20. What is an example of an expansionary monetary policy? So we're just looking for monetary policy here. This is monetary policy, of course, and this is monetary policy. So the money supply, and this is the supply side, and this is a fiscal policy. So if we reduce the interest rate, then that's expansionary. So I'm going to go with D here. Reducing the money supply is contractionary. Let's go to 21. Okay, a country has high unemployment and low inflation. To reduce unemployment, the government increases its spending on education and training, causing a budget deficit. What is the most likely effect of this policy on inflation in the short run and in the long run? So in the short run, there's going to be an increase in inflation because AD is going to be shifting to the right, if you remember that. So this is your short-run supply curve, and this is your AD. So as AD shifts to the right, expect the prices to move up. So in the short run, there's going to be an increase in inflation, but in the long run, there's going to be a decrease in inflation. And this is because of the long-run aggregate supply. For example, it's going to shift to the right. So for 21, C is going to be the best option there. Just to say that because these people are going to be trained, a lot of training is going to increase the productivity of labor, which is going to shift the LRAS to the right. 22. Okay, the following information was published by an economist central bank. In which case was the real GDP the highest? Real GDP the highest. So 2, 1. So here the growth is just 1 here. The growth is 2 here. The growth is minus 4. So negative 4, and here the growth is negative 1. So the highest would be B for 22. Let's move on to 23. The table shows the percentage change in some items of the consumer price index in a year. Okay, energy by 16, food by 18, housing by 10, transport by 17. What is the most likely consequence of these changes? Okay, interest rates will need to be reduced. Let me read the question again. The table shows the percentage change in some items on the consumer price index in a year. What would be the most likely consequence of these changes? If we reduce interest rates, we're going to have more inflation. So this one, no. There'll be a more equal distribution of income. I think this one, no, because the low income earners are spending most of their money on most of these things here. So they'll be even more broke. So there'll be cost push inflation. This is a possibility because if the cost of energy is increasing and all these other things are increasing, then labor is going to most likely ask for more salary and energy, and the energy is used for production. So this is going to increase the cost of production. There'll be demand side deflation. Probably not. So let's go with C for this question. 23. Move on to 24. Cuba is said to be transitioning towards a market economy. Okay. What is the most likely impact of this pattern on employment in Cuba? Expect most of them to go to the private sector now. A decrease in the proportion of workers employed in the public sector. Yeah, that could happen. An increase in the proportion of workers employed in the private sector. An increase in the proportion of workers employed. No, this one, no. It's going to be an increase here, not a decrease. A decrease in the proportion of workers employed in small firms. No, they should increase. A decrease in the proportion of workers employed in the tertiary sector. They should increase. So I'm going to go with A here for question 24. And then moving on to 25. What is not a component of a Human Development Index? Do you remember this question in one of the papers? I believe it's the A-level paper, 9708, for the same February-March 2026. Paper 32, sorry. It's there. And what we don't need here is D for 25. Let's move on to 26. What could explain the rise in an economy's country's population size despite a fall in its birth rate? The birth rate is going down, but the country's population is increasing. Maybe there's people coming into this country, or there's a very high birth rate. Or there's a very low death rate. For example, not many people are dying. So a birth rate that exceeds the death rate. Right, so if the birth rate exceeds the death rate, then of course we can have more people here. So this one can be true. A death rate that exceeds the birth rate, no, this one will not give us more population. Net immigration exceeds birth rate. Net immigration, people coming in exceed those who are born. This one, no. Net immigration exceeds the death rate. People leaving the country exceed people that are born. I think the correct answer here is A for 26. It makes more sense than these two. Let's move on to 27. What is a basis for specialization at a national level? A basis for specialization at a national level. This economies of scale? No. This one, no. If you specialize, you don't get a wide variety of goods, so you probably get superior resource allocation. I'm going to go with C for 27. 28, the import of a product from country X and into country Y has been banned or banned. What is this an example of? This is an embargo. You don't need to worry so much about that. It's just a content question. 29. Okay, what is necessary to be able to operate a fixed exchange rate system? You need a lot of reserves to do this, so you need a lot of foreign exchange, reserves in foreign currencies. So that would be D. And then 30. 30. A developing economy has a surplus on its trade in goods of 75 billion. And a deficit on its trade in services of 75 billion, while its current account is in overall balance. Which values for primary and secondary income result in the current account being in balance? Okay. So if you draw this table here and you put inflows here and outflows, so you have inflows of 75 and outflows of 25. So this thing is in balance. So if it's in balance, then we need the inflows and the outflows to be the same. So if you put 20 billion in primary income, as a deficit would be here, that would be 45, and a surplus here, so this one is not true. This one, again, a deficit of 30 billion will be there, that will be 55. Put this here, no, so this is not true. Surplus of 35 billion in primary income, so that's an inflow. That will be 110 and 50, so this one cannot be true. Let's try this one. A surplus of 40 billion in primary income. 40 billion in primary income, so that's an inflow, so that would be 115. and the deficit of 90. So let's try to put that here. 40, that's 115, and put here 90. Once again 115. So that would be the solution there, which is a D. Right, and I think we've come to the end of that video. 30 minutes and 10 seconds now. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel. And I'm going to share more videos on economics going forward. You can share this video with other students, and also you can write in the comment section which question you think I need to do more explanation or which one I need to change the answer. Thank you so much.